Hello, today we're going to be talking about QR codes, also known as quick response codes. What we're going to be looking at is how to incorporate these things into classroom BYOD, bring your own device policy. You're probably most familiar with a QR code from stores and flyers. What a quick response code does is it enables someone to gain quick access to an internet resource or a contact or anything internet based from a mobile device. It oftentimes replaces a internet address, making it easier to access on a device where a keyboard isn't necessarily the best option. So let's take a look at what we have. There are plenty of apps and sites associated with QR codes. We're going to go with a Google one called Google. It's a Google URL shortener. Oftentimes it's used to shorten internet addresses, but we can use it for this purpose as well. So we're going to take a sample document online, in this case a Google Doc, and we're going to take the URL, the internet address, and we're going to paste it into this URL shortener. Click shorten, and it's going to provide us with a shortened link that you see highlighted here. But if you click on a summary, you'll see the QR code. That QR code, you can save the image, and then that image, when used with a device, will link to the Google Doc. This is Google Doc just being an example of something that's internet-based that you can use. So you could print this off, and you can put it in a flyer, you can put it in a brochure, you can project it on a screen, you can incorporate it into a video, incorporate it into plenty of places. We'll see examples. You'll also see that in here there's a stats piece where it'll show when people are accessing the QR and when, so you can tell if your students are accessing it. So that's an example of the image. You can put it on a piece of paper if you wanted to. Once again, before we get started, a QR code is a quick response code, often seen in stores traditionally for quick access, and they're great for devices like tablets and smartphones, because they can access a website or online information quickly without entering an internet address. So now we're looking at an example of this. We're going to take a look at someone. They're scanning that code. We just printed it. It's reading the page. Now usually right now, if you wanted a student to look at something, you might have them enter an internet address, but rather than do that, they scan, and you can see that what they did was they brought up this document that's internet based. They're looking at it. That's hard to see, so let's take a look at this from on a computer screen. And here you see what they're looking at. This is a computer screen, not a tablet screen, but it's the same content. The only thing that I would add here is that since this is a Google document, depending on what you're looking at, you might have to set permissions. So here it is. They can look at it. They can do whatever they want with it, rather than into that long internet address. But in this case, what I do, just as an aside, I would make sure I was setting the share settings so anybody can look at it, so they don't go to a lockdown screen. So now that we've seen some examples, or at least one example of how this could be used, why don't we take a look a little more at what QR codes are and how they can be used, and some lesson ideas even. There's a number of options of what can be linked to a QR code. It's pretty much anything internet based. So the obvious first thing would be a web address. The way a web address could be used, could be using as a classroom resource. Once again, as stated before, anything where a student doesn't want to enter information, a long address, contact information. Sometimes people use almost like as a business card. Text, you could type something in and have them just text a prompt of some sort. You would enter the text maybe in a doc of some sort. Calendar event, they scan the QR code, it syncs right into their calendar. There's another option. An image for maybe analyzing a primary source document. This could be whether it's a visual of a document or a picture. A text message, they scan it, sends out a text message. email, so you can have an email to someone. So in terms of the applications for a lesson, the web address and a picture are probably the most likely, although what you could do is you could do a scavenger hunt. You could have it sync into a location, and maybe an extra credit project. The kids do use extra credit with a geolocation scavenger hunt. Options, Google, which we use as our example in this one. Alright, so now that we've seen an example of a QR code, we're going to take a look at some things that can be done with it. The first thing that pops to mind, just because we talked about geolocation earlier, is a scavenger hunt. With a scavenger hunt, yeah, you could do it with a GPS system where on the phone you locate things, find out where they are, move to the next location, but you could also do it in terms of giving hints without the GPS. In other words, a link to a website. Real quick, you have students who are using devices. You want them to access certain sites, and they do so. And if you take it from that to the next level, you could do a gallery walk where you're providing a number of sites around the room. The kids go by, they scan the QR code, they access them. They're not limited just to a website. They could, access images or sound bites, anything internet-based. And once again, things go a little quicker because they're not sitting there on a small device entering URL codes or internet addresses. Worksheets, where you get things out to a student. Just one more option for getting information out. In terms of getting information out, you also have contact information. This is one to be a little wary of, because if you're in a classroom, you can teach the students, educate them as how to use the QR codes, but if you're using contact information for parents, it's not something that's common knowledge that all parents know instantly what to do with it. You could record notes for students electronically, whether it's in an online document system like Google Docs or some sort of recorded piece. And then if the students are absent, they have very easy and quick access to notes rather than making copies. Missing assignments can be posted in a QR code. Students keep an assignment book where it's easy to access. Some other options might be hints or tutorials. You provide information to a student on sheet or to students on the sheet, and the QR code is if they need a little more help, they can scan on it as a hint. You can make this a scaffolding exercise, or you can make it a game of sorts, kind of like a shout out or a call out for help. Book reviews. Sometimes a library media specialist will have students create library reviews online, and they assign a QR code to that internet address and they put it inside the book. And because you have access to all these different types of resources or forms of media with a QR code, you could always make a digital portfolio where a student can take a collection of work and link them all to a QR code. So rather than having a hard copy binder somewhere, you could post a QR code for each student's work, and you could have a wall of portfolios where somebody could walk up with a device, scan the QR code, and access the information quickly. So here's just a few ideas. Here's another example of a QR code being used in a classroom. I'm going to show you two examples. This one, we made a link to something. It turned out to be actually, oddly enough, a resource on using QR codes in the classroom. So we scan it, we bring it in, brings up the site, a site called LiveBinder in this case, and we're going to take a look at what that would look like to a classroom. Obviously, the person did not need to enter a internet address. So here we are. This is what it looks like on the computer screen, but it's the same resource. This is obviously a teacher site, but a student site could be used as well for accessing information. And here's one last example to make it clear of what's going on here. We were in a site, take URL, in this case a topic on colonialism and imperialism, take the internet address, paste it into the URL shortener, shorten it, gets the information. Go to the information, take the QR code, save the image as, post it, print it. Later on, we can go and see if the students are actually accessing this, if it's an out-of-class activity, see if it's being used effectively. How many things have been clicked on, we're able to see. Get the stats on it. You actually look and see where it was clicked on, what programs are used to access. So then when a student goes to look at a QR code with their device, we're able to look here, once again, click on the scan. Comes up for the student, they have access to the site. And then to look at it from a student's perspective, this is what it would look like for the student. So you have a few options of what you can do with QR codes. It's just one of many options under a BYOD policy. Experiment with it, have some fun. The only first suggestion is that you get the students used to it, run a trial run. Just don't just walk into a classroom expecting students to know what to do, because this is new to a lot of them as well. But once they get into it, they tend to get very engaged.